Right, so this talk is about how our industry has evolved over recent years. I've been in the industry for 15 years, which is longer than some and not as long as others. But in that time, we've seen the way in which we deliver insights has evolved and changed quite dramatically. And what I'm going to be speaking about today is the implications for that evolution, how it's affected the way we constitute our business, the teams, the skill sets that we have in our teams, and things like that. First of all, say that I'm actually presenting many people's work here. This is the reality of market research more than ever before, is that when you build things, you need a ever increasing number of skills, and nothing can be built in isolation if ever it was. I'm also going to try and avoid using the term AI because it's obviously a buzzword that is overused and can become quite meaningless. So let's see if I can avoid using AI. First thing I want to impress upon you, though, is that all companies really are tech companies, or 99% of companies. There are very few companies these days that can do what they need to do without leveraging technology. And often case, it behooves those companies to take control of that technology and bend it to their will. And to the extent that companies do that, they are tech companies. Nothing can be done without technology these days. And that applies to market research as much as anything else. So why now? What has brought about this shift where we're leveraging technology, machine learning, all these kinds of software development techniques, all that kind of stuff? Why now? What's changed? The first thing that's changed is that clients are asking different questions. They have access to different data sources. They have the in-housing of capabilities, and they have different client internal capabilities that are changing the conversations that we're having. And all that's being underpinned by new technology, cloud infrastructure, AI, or machine learning. I used the term there, forgot about that. And all these pieces that we've been maneuvering into place slowly over the years have suddenly been we've been forced to accelerate this the metamorphosis due to COVID-19, where traditional data collection techniques were no longer available to us. People had to be reached remotely on web applications, mobile, all the kind of places where technology really can be brought to bear. What we're really seeing, though, is a shift in the way that we deliver insights, from reactive to proactive insights, from looking backwards and what had gone before in the last few months to trying to anticipate what's coming ahead, as we are buffeted by an ever accelerating cycle of marketplaces, economics, and society. We're trying to, more than ever, try and be proactive in anticipating what comes ahead. And this has been facilitated through technology. For example, we're trying to surface emerging trends and detect anomalies. We're trying to alert researchers to those changes so that they can be more tactical within the scope of their strategies as they are buffeted by these changes on an increasing basis. And essentially, we're just trying to predict ahead for planning rather than look backwards. What we're trying to do as well is we're trying to empower researchers. We're trying to make access to data more democratized so that you have the right data at your fingertips when you need it in a more of a data agnostic form, whether it's unstructured data or structured data, having the right data streams at your fingertips. And the reason why you're doing that is we're trying to increase situational awareness, like a soldier on a battlefield where wars are won when your soldiers have more information, more contextual information about the environment than the competitors. In the same way, what we're trying to do through technology is we're trying to increase the situational awareness of the people making decisions. And from an insights provider perspective, is we're trying to be more consultative, we're trying to be more domain specific, and we're trying to have the right insights at the right time for the context of our clients. And all of this comes through technology empowerment. So let's have a look at the way in which things have changed over the years. Let's first look at how we used to build products versus today. In the old days, what we did was we saw what the need was, we had some ideas, we consulted the theory, what was the frameworks, what was the literature review saying. We worked with marketing science and DP, and we would validate models, and there'd often be survey-based models, and then we'd socialize those within the market. The new world has far more steps in there, and those steps come to us from the world of software development, but they're proving to be steps that anyone who's developing a complex data product needs to follow or can benefit from following. So we're still eliciting ideas, getting ideation, doing R&D, but then we're using agile processes, building MVPs, alpha, beta, getting our products into the test environments, the UAT environments, production environments, measuring, evolving, and iterating, and all that kind of thing. And all that stuff comes to us from all the software development. Another reason why we're all tech companies these days. Given the complexity of what we're building, this seems to be one of the best approaches to doing that kind of thing. The data sources available to us the list of data sources has also expanded a lot. We used to deal with surveys, diaries, online communities, panel data, spend, media data, advanced analytics, and we're still relying on all those things, but now we're further augmenting them with a greater variety of data sources: social media data, search engine data, customer reviews, chatbot conversations, mobile diaries, mobility data, and on and on and on. There are always new data streams coming online, and we need to be able to deal with it. And while the new data streams coming online, what we're really dealing with is a few different kinds of data modalities. Whereas before we dealt with survey, panel data, media data, scanner data, etc. Again, we're dealing with all those kinds of data, but we're also dealing with unstructured text from a variety of sources like social media, more time series telemetry data, in form of time series, different kinds of things as time series, image data, video data, chatbot logs, transcripts that have been auto-transcribed by machine learning approaches. All those kinds of things are necessitate us to process them in different ways. And we need to have those abilities on hand. And bring that all together, the way we build products, the different kinds of data sources and data modalities that we deal with means that we have to deal with different skill sets. While traditionally within market research or insights, we had researchers, we had data processing, marketing science, etc., etc. Now we've got all of those again, but we've got business analysts, project managers, scrum masters, DevOps, database administrators, data scientists, data engineers, MLOps, business intelligence, dashboarding professionals, front-end developers, UX experts, back-end developers, cloud architects, etc., etc. It's an entirely different list of skills, and it's a far more extensive list of skills because we're dealing with far more complex data products. Okay, so that's just a bit of a juxtaposition showing the way in which the world has changed. Let's talk a bit about the kinds of things that need to be taken into account when you're actually building data products. And there's two large sides to building a data product that need to be taken into account to ensure that your data product has a defensible USP. A holistic data product consists of two halves: embedding what we know already into the product, the domain expertise of our people, of our clients, the context of their categories and markets, and also the market research paradigm, our knowledge about how brands work and how that differs from the way in which consumers speak. We speak about brands in very unique ways that are specific to our industry, and embodying that paradigm within our machine learning models and our data products is very important. And then there's the other side of the equation, which is how do we find the things that we don't know? And that's things like emerging trends, evolving consumer language, evolving consumer needs, etc., etc. And this is about the different techniques that we have at our disposal. So let's look at how do we embed what we know already. What are the things that we need to be externalized from our domain into our machines in order for us to create meaningful contextual insights? For example, we need to take account of our training data sets, our fine-tuning data sets, things like document level coded data sets, and we need to put all those things into one place or make them at least easily accessible, because the more data machines have, the better they do the better they are at what they do. And that's the kind of things we're talking about here are attribute lists, topics, tagging rules, grouping rules, the kinds of implicit domain knowledge that we have as experts that we need to externalize into our machines. For example, taxonomies like these kinds where you have hierarchical grouping rules or ways in which make sense of otherwise messy data. The other side of the equation is how do we get the stuff that we don't know? How do we surface and make sense of the things that we don't know? And this is really where machine learning comes in, and data science and analytics. And this is where we have to have different capabilities for dealing with different data modalities. For example, when it comes to natural language processing, topic modeling, sentiment analysis, chatbot conversations, how do you infer the intent of someone in that conversation? How do you generate a response automatically to their responses, etc., etc.? All these kinds of things are capabilities that were not really leveraged a few years ago, but are absolutely vital to this modern era. Other modalities like image and video, how do you ensure that you've got the capabilities for detecting the right objects, tracking client logos or brand logos through a video or piece of creative? How do you deal with identifying higher order concepts like emotions in videos or things like that? All those capabilities need to be brought to bear. Voice and audio, making sense of transcription so that you can use those transcripts for NLP, or natural language processing. How do you infer the mood of a particular piece of creative, perhaps? Things like that. And then very importantly, even as you've got these capabilities, you also need to have your architecture and your plumbing in place. How do you ensure that you are bringing your different data sets, data assets to bear on these capabilities, making sure that they are continuously learning and pulling out the right contextual information? And how do you ensure that the kinds of things that your human assets, the people that are working on your data sets, whenever they do something, they code new data or encode new information, how do you ensure that that's always being fed back into your systems, and so that your systems are continually learning? How do you knit your different data sources together through data fusion? All that kind of stuff is absolutely fundamental to getting it's absolutely fundamental that you get that stuff right and you get your plumbing right. And if you're able to capitalize, if you're able to get both these things together, you've got a holistic a data product. But doing so means that you need to build those capabilities. And I like to think of the analogy of Lego bricks. Getting those capabilities in place requires you to have the right technological resources, the right cloud architecture and processing capabilities. You need to bring to bear the right data assets that contextualize your data, that fine-tune it for your context, that help your machines embed the market research paradigm. And you need those methods that are going to help you find the patterns, the right kinds of patterns, contextualize in the way that your data assets have helped you contextualize them. Things like NLP, those different data modalities. For example, we've got a product, and if I were to break up one of the way in which this product fits into this kind of analogy, our technology resources are, we have cross-organization brand connectors. We're pulling in data from different parts of the organization that previously didn't speak to each other, and we're using data fusion to harmonize those. We're putting all those kinds of things, all that data and all the kind of downstream data that comes from that into a centralized place for logging purposes, for meta-analysis, for understanding user experiences, for cross-selling and all those kinds of things. And then in terms of the actual data assets, we're knitting together media spend data, sales data, survey data. And in terms of methodologies, we've got ways of identifying anomaly detection to trigger smart alerts, time series decomposition, and prediction and simulation. And all that together becomes a holistic data product that's leveraging these kind of capabilities. Continuing the kind of Lego analogy, maybe kind of like Russian nested dolls. Once you have all these capabilities, you need to combine them into data products and into solutions. A capability might be leveraging a bunch of methods, some data storage, some data assets, some technology resources. Maybe you've even wrapped it into a service API and you're farming it out to different parts of your data ecosystem. And when you knit these different capabilities together, you might define a product out of that which does a specific thing, answers a specific need or a specific question. And when you group products together, you get a solution, a suite of products that all play in a similar kind of area. And it's this kind of laddering up approach, this using Lego bricks, that is being is being empowered through all these new skill sets, through all these new ways of working. And as you can see, it's a far more complex reality than what we used to deal with when it came to more traditional market research, even 5 years ago. Once we put all this together, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to create a closed loop data ecosystem. What I mean by that? Well, in many of the case, in many of the things that we're building, many of the data products, what we do is and just to say here that even within our own organization, to use the famous quote, the future is here, it's just not evenly spread. This is still something that we've got right in some places, not right in other places. But the general idea is that when you have raw data, whatever the data modality is, you are first trying to enrich that data. And the way that you enrich that data is you bring your methods to bear, whether it's NLP or object detection or whatever the case may be. And you're further enriching your data with your data assets. You're imposing structure on often unstructured data through taxonomies. You're creating better classifications of your data through training data sets that improve your machine learning models, for example. And then you're creating a feedback loop with your human assets, your human in the loop coders, who further bootstrap the quality of that data up to a level that is acceptable. It's a research grade level where we can actually start to derive insights from it with some level of confidence. And once we reach that level, we start farming it out, whether it's to online platforms and dashboards or reporting, whatever the case may be. But importantly, what we always need to do is we need to close that loop. So all the work that the human assets have done to get the data up to a certain level needs to be fed back into our data assets so that our machines can continue to learn from them and continue to improve over time. And that's the general kind of framework that we try to put in place when we deal with these data products. And again, you can see all those new skill sets scattered throughout this process, whether it's cloud architects, data scientists, data engineers, dashboarding, whatever the case may be, project managers that are shepherding this all the way through the process. They're all scattered throughout this process. So what if I just, what's the kind of ground that I've just covered now? What do I hope to impart upon you as we end this presentation? Well, I hope you agree that all companies are tech companies. There are obviously some caveats to that, companies of a certain size, but generally speaking, we're all dealing in the world of technology. We're all enabled through technology. What we do is done through technology. And as I said in the beginning, it therefore behooves us to take some control and have some understanding of what's going on under the surface. The way that we've built data products and the skills required have changed dramatically. The list of skills needed has increased a lot. The complexity of what we're building has increased a lot. The ways in which we build it have become more complicated or more complex. And so we're dealing with a very different world today. What we're trying to do at the end of the day is we're trying to create these kind of closed loop data ecosystems where we leverage what we already know. We externalize the domain knowledge. We embed the market research paradigm into our machines. And we also need to have ways of surfacing the things that we don't already know, the best-in-class methodologies, the kind of machine learning tools that we need to make sense of the increasingly messy, unstructured data that we have at our fingertips these days. And the analogy that I like to use for this is we build capabilities that can be maneuvered into place like shared Lego bricks. And we build up block by block into ever increasingly complex data products. So I hope you found that interesting and hope you found that useful. A look at my take on the way in which the industry has changed in the last few years. I'd be interested to hear how that compares to your own experiences with this. And myself and Ray will be ready to take some questions now. Thank you for your time.